From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. It's been a rough 24 hours for Montana as the state reports 5 more coronavirus deaths today, bringing the statewide total to 52 now. One of those deaths, a man in his 40s from Yellowstone County, the first time a person that young has died here in our county. Custer County also reported the deaths of 2 people over the age of 65. Those are the first COVID-related deaths in Custer County. The other 2 deaths, a man in his 50s from Gallatin County and a person from Lincoln County. In all, the state reported 94 new COVID cases this morning. Gallatin County had the most with 28. Yellowstone County added 17 new cases. Nearly 500 of those are active right now. 62 patients are currently hospitalized, while more than 2,200 people have recovered from the virus. Governor Steve Bullock sent his condolences to Montanans after the latest 5 deaths, saying, with over 50 deaths in the state now, these losses continue to weigh heavily on our hearts, while our seniors and immunocompromised individuals remain the most vulnerable. Even otherwise healthy Montanans experience life-altering and sometimes deadly outcomes when they face the virus. Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon stopped short of issuing a mandatory mask wearing order today, but rather said he's relying on Wyoming residents to take responsibility for ensuring the state stays open for business, as Governor Gordon challenged everyone to do their best to slow the spread of COVID-19. The state reported 64 new confirmed COVID cases, highest daily increase so far. Wyoming now has 521 active cases, a marked increase from just 2 weeks ago when active cases were below 300. 1 new COVID-related death was also reported today, bringing Wyoming's total to 26. Gordon also took time to address the state's budget deficit, now estimated at $759 million. Well, that's an improvement from May. The state's economy is still reeling from the pandemic, and the governor implored all Wyoming citizens to do their part to keep Wyoming's economy afloat.
It's really simple. If you're just dead set on taking down Wyoming's economy, don't wear these. Make sure that you put these on as you feel comfortable and you can, because these are the things that are going to keep us open.
Governor Gordon also discussed a spike in COVID cases at the state penitentiary in Rawlins. 2 weeks of testing prison staff and inmates resulted in 15 confirmed cases, 8 of those among inmates who've been since isolated from the prison's general population. Well, the Billings School District faces the same challenges as schools across the country in bringing students safely back into the classroom. Tomorrow, Billings School District 2 officials will provide more details about what's being done for student safety locally. Q2's Mitch Legge brings us the story.
Tomorrow at 3 p.m., the Billings School Board will get a look at the superintendent's plan to get kids safely back in the classroom. The superintendent has worked with officials from the local hospitals as well as county public health to craft the procedures, and the public will get a more detailed look than they did at a board meeting last week. Superintendent Greg Upham told me over the phone today that the plan will be reviewed in draft form at the meeting tomorrow. Upham revealed last week that the school will be offering both in-person and online classes in the fall, with online enrollment prioritized first to students and staff with health risks. And those students in those physical classrooms will be required to wear masks for a majority of their day. We also expect to learn more at the meeting tomorrow, including whether students will stay in one classroom throughout the day. Also, how recess, lunches, and busing will function on campus. More information is expected about the specific curriculum of classes for online students, including whether some sort of live video instruction may be included. Q2 will be broadcasting the board meeting tomorrow, starting at 3 o'clock on our Facebook page. Tune in there for the latest. Another topic of discussion at that meeting will be whether or not fans will be allowed inside school sporting events. Casey Conlon will have more details later in sports. Reporting in Billings, I'm Mitch Legge, MTN News.
All right, thank you, Mitch. If you're not able to catch that meeting tomorrow, we'll have all the details right here on the Q2 530 News and on our website, ktvq.com. Well, back to school plans were also set in motion this afternoon during a Montana University System task force meeting aimed at setting up frameworks so campuses can build their own COVID-specific plans. Campus food service will include different food options such as pickup, delivery, or curbside. Buffet and self-serve options are not allowed. There will be a capacity limit in the dining facilities, and hours will be adjusted to meet social distancing guidelines. Staff campus operations will be redesigning space and traffic flow patterns, along with planning work accommodations for employees who are at risk for COVID-19. There's also a requirement to develop an occupancy plan, conduct training for staff on public health measures, and plans for quarantine and isolation. MUS Healthy Fall 2020 guidelines will also include plans to lessen mental health risks and promote wellness across campuses. This, along with other planned guidelines, are still being discussed. But will Montana have an all-mail ballot for the November 3rd general election? County election officials in Montana are saying the time to decide is now, and they've asked Governor Bullock to give them that power as he did for the primary election. MTN's chief political reporter Mike Dennison has the story.
It may seem like a long time until the general election, 14 weeks to be precise. But for the people who conduct the election, it's not.
If we're looking at a mail ballot election, that means more envelopes, that means increased capacity to process mail ballots. That means looking at if postage is covered or not on the return envelopes. And those are things that take time to plan for.
And that's why last Friday, Montana's local election officials formally asked Governor Bullock to allow them to choose an all-mail ballot for the general election, or not, and to give them that power no later than August 10th. McHugh said if that power is granted, she'll be recommending Lewis and Clark County go to all-mail ballots, as did every Montana county for the primary election. She also says across the state, county election officials are finding that the coronavirus pandemic is upending the election landscape. Many of the usual polling places may be inaccessible to the public, and counties say they doubt they can find enough election judges to be at the polls. Under his emergency powers, Bullock can supersede election laws and allow counties to choose all-mail ballots. His office says he'll be consulting with election and health officials and political leaders from both parties before making the call. McHugh says the primary election provided a good test run for an all-mail statewide election, and it was mostly positive.
When we did the primary election by mail ballot, it was safe, it was effective. We had higher turnout than we normally do. So we think given the circumstances and the time frame, that would be the best way to conduct the general election.
And something else to keep in mind that argues for an early decision. In a general election with a presidential race, in Montana, usually at least 200,000 more people vote than in the primary. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
All right, thanks, Mike. The all-mail primary election had a record turnout for a primary in Montana, breaking the old record by almost 90,000 ballots. Steve Bullock's U.S. Senate campaign and a Montana company are asking Montana TV stations to pull a Republican campaign ad that they say is false and defamatory. The ad, which began running statewide late last week, says Bullock steered state contracts to his brother's company. The ad is from the National Republican Senatorial Committee, which is opposing Bullock in his Senate run against Republican Senator Steve Daines. The Bullock campaign and the company, Pioneer Technical Services of Butte, says it won all the contracts in competitive bidding. And it says that Bullock's brother sold his financial interest in the environmental consulting firm in 2009. That was 4 years before Bullock became governor. The NRSC says it stands by the ad and notes that Bullock's brother Bill is still on the company's board of directors. Well, Montana has produced plenty of professional athletes over the years, but not many of them reached the career highs of one 1979 CMR graduate. MTN's Tom Wiley recently sat down with perhaps Montana's most interesting man.
From 1989 to 1996, American Gladiators was one of the most popular shows on television, and Laser was one of the most popular competitors on the program.
Ladies and gentlemen, from Gladiator Arena in Los Angeles, California, here are your American Gladiators.
They couldn't come up with a name for me, and we were sitting in the producer's office, and I said, how about Laser? Because I was thinking laser beam, fast, quick, lightning quick, and they said, that's it, you're Laser. And that was it, yeah.
There's nothing faster than a laser beam. Nothing. On, back.
But before Laser rose to nationwide fame, he was Jim Califat, one of the greatest football players in Montana's history, and his story starts at CMR, playing tailback and linebacker for the legendary Jack Johnson.
I think everybody knows Jack, and Jack is an icon, and he is a hero of mine. I mean, just a wonderful human being, you know, and I owe much of my success not only on the field, but off the field as well, because that's the kind of man and coach he really is.
Jimmy Califat, yeah, he's a great kid. He's one of my favorites, and just a great football player. Could run and strong and tough, smart, loved to play football, loved the game.
For more on Jim Califat's journey from CMR to MSU to the NFL and then national television, check out the full story at montanasports.com. Reporting from home, Tom Wiley, MTN News.
Califat was the only cast member to appear in all 7 seasons of American Gladiators. Up next on tonight's Q2 530 News, the final phase of testing for an experimental coronavirus vaccine is underway. We're going to hear from one of my former co-anchors who was the very first person in the nation to get a dose. And in sports, high school coaches and athletes weigh in on the thrill of pressing on with a fall sports season.